When the global pandemic was declared by the World Health Organization, I was residing at Pearson United World College in the coastal forest of Vancouver Island. I had returned to teach theater 35 years after having been one of 200 students aged 16 to 18 who had come from more than 65 countries to live together for 2 years in this small global village designed to foster international understanding through education. I grew up in rural southern France in a working-class family, and this experience radically changed the course of my life. I had roommates from India, Argentina, Indonesia, and Canada. I participated in student-led community service and creative activities, including performances, and I developed lifelong friendships with young people from a wide range of nationalities, identities, and worldviews. However, there were no land acknowledgements on campus at the time, and the history of Canadian colonialism was never discussed. We had been selected on merit and granted full scholarships, yet we remained unaware that we were uninvited visitors on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the HÍSW First Nation, whose main community is located on Beecher Bay in East Souk, 30 kilometers southwest of Victoria and only 10 kilometers from Pearson College. The pandemic, also uninvited, led to the current Pearson students being sent home and the ensuing lockdown, a protracted period of forced solitude, gave me time to reflect on the depth of my indebtedness to the stewards of this land. I committed to developing a performance-based land acknowledgement. Every day throughout the spring and summer, I visited with the ocean, sky, and trees the soaring eagles, diving seals, jumping fish, and gliding herons. They generously offered their teachings, filling me with their energy, as if recognizing in me the youth who had once come to them with a good heart. Almost 4 decades later, I experienced the healing power of giving thanks and learned that it was never too late to do so. Pearson College was founded in 1974 and named after Canadian Prime Minister Lester B. Pearson, who asked in his 1957 Nobel Peace Prize lecture, "How can there be peace without people understanding each other? And how can this be if they don't know each other?" He then referred to what he defined as cooperative coexistence, positing that knowledge and understanding must be reciprocal. Within the context of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission calls to action in Canada, this entails acknowledging the history of the land upon which the college was built and developing a mutually beneficial relationship with the HÍSW First Nation. While teaching at the college in 2019, I witnessed the beginning of a new era through my participation in the Indigenous Visions Advisory Committee led by Gigson facilitator Marcia Dawson-Turner, a collaborative process leading to the creation of the 2020-2025 Reconciliation Action Plan, designed to strengthen relationships with Indigenous people and provide a culturally responsive education system for Indigenous and non-Indigenous students. It suddenly became possible to envision a collective future truly based on cooperative coexistence. Many Indigenous leaders and activists have said that truth must come first as a necessary condition for reconciliation. In her book entitled From Where I Stand, Rebuilding Canada for a Stronger Future, Jody Wilson-Raybould states that the 1876 Indian Act, truly colonial legislation in all the negative senses of that term, imposed and structured a form of race-based oppression within Canada. Wilson-Raybould was regional chief of the Assembly of First Nations for British Columbia from 2009 to 2015, as well as the first Indigenous person to serve as Minister of Justice and Attorney General of Canada from 2015 to 2019, and her sister, Corey Wilson, is a Pearson College alumna and board member. In her book, Jody Wilson-Raybould proposes to build upon the 2007 United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, UNDRIP, eventually endorsed by Canada in 2016. Article 26, for example, states, "Indigenous peoples have the right to the lands, territories, and resources which they have traditionally owned, occupied, or otherwise used or acquired." In 2018, Bill C-262 was passed to ensure that the laws of Canada align with UNDRIP. Yet Wilson-Raybould observes that although a lot of positive steps have been taken, reconciliation means confronting and ending the legacy of colonialism in Canada and replacing it with a future built on Indigenous self-determination. Murray Sinclair, who served as chairman of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, writes in his foreword to her book, "Reconciliation means we need to create a future together that best comes to terms with our past." Indeed, the TRC calls to action include the recommendation to renew or establish treaty relationships based on principles of mutual recognition, mutual respect, and shared responsibility for maintaining those relationships into the future. In the book entitled Liberalism, Surveillance and Resistance, Indigenous Communities in Western Canada, 1877-1927, Keith D. Smith explains that as the colony expanded, the Hudson Bay Company started buying up lands for colonial settlement and industry from Indigenous peoples on Vancouver Island. James Douglas was the Hudson Bay Company chief factor prior to becoming governor of Vancouver Island, and he made a series of 14 land purchases. In April 1850, he met with Indigenous leaders and made verbal agreements, with each leader drawing an X at the bottom of a blank ledger. The terms of the treaty, only incorporated in August, were modeled on the New Zealand Company's deeds of purchase for Maori land. The Vancouver Island Douglas Treaty's lands were exchanged for cash, clothing, and blankets. In spite of the promises made by the Douglas Treaties, Indigenous people in British Columbia ended up having fewer rights, less land, and less protection than most of their counterparts in the rest of Canada. Joseph W. Trotch, who succeeded to James Douglas, took settler colonialism a step further when he declared, "Indians have no real rights to the lands they claim, nor are they of any actual value or utility to them." Challenging this enduring colonial mindset, the Cheyenne First Nation, the district of HÍSW and Pearson College, signed a Memorandum of Understanding on December 10, 2018, stating that the parties would work together to develop a common vision for the lands near the college campus on Peter Bay, namely the Mary Hill lands currently held by the National Department of Defense, and the 74 acres of the Pearson lands on which the college is situated, owned by the college for so long as the said lands and every part thereof are used for college purposes. These lands are within the unceded traditional territory of the Cheyenne First Nation, who has been negotiating with the Government of Canada a modern land claim agreement under the British Columbia Treaty process through the Temmuck Treaty Association. As part of the Pearson College Reconciliation Action Plan, Cheyenne elders have given Chief Russell Chips their permission to gift the college with words in the SENÇOԹEN language to rename the on-campus student houses. According to the SENÇOԹEN Dictionary, published by the University of Washington Press in 2018, the SENÇOԹEN language was spoken on the Saanich or Wissahickon Peninsula of southern Vancouver Island and islands in the Strait of Georgia, today divided by the US-Canada border. But it is currently the first language of fewer than 10 people. However, thanks to the unique SENÇOԹEN writing system developed by David Elliott Sr. in the 1970s, an important and ongoing language revitalization initiative has enabled a large and growing number of people to learn to speak SENÇOԹEN. The Wissahickon School Board offers language classes and immersion curriculum, and SENÇOԹEN is one of the indigenous languages documented by First Voices, a website that shares and promotes language, oral culture, and linguistic history through audio recordings made with elders. These resources are therefore making it possible for Pearson College students to honor the language, culture, and history of their Cheyenne hosts and neighbors, so as to develop a respectful, responsible, and reciprocal relationship with them and support their courageous struggle for self-determination and self-governance, in the hope that the Cheyenne people may fully regain their rights to manage and control their beautiful, ancestral, and traditional territory.